This video is going to be my first preview for the Ravens-Lions clash, Week 7 in Baltimore on Sunday. I'm going to talk about how I think Ben Johnson manipulates defenses, or one of the ways he does. There's multiple ways that he does so. And we're going to use 12 personnel as the platform to explain that. Well, why do we pick that? Well, first of all, we normally don't get the data aggregated and organized until Thursday. It just takes that long when you're doing two offenses, the Ravens and the Lions. We were able to finish a day early. Second of all, Ben Johnson is telling us to look there, because on Sunday against the Bucs, he went 12 personnel 24 times. Prior to Sunday's game down in Tampa Bay, in our database, we had the Lions in 12 personnel 43 times. Let me give you the data on that first. So 43 iterations of 12 personnel from Week 1 to Week 5. We had 22 runs, 20 passes, and 1 penalty. So really close to 50-50 in terms of run-pass balance, all right? You can kind of back map or conclude what Ben Johnson thought about someone's nickel versus base defense by what he utilizes a lot in each game. Now, we know that can change throughout the flow of the game, but when someone goes to something early on possessions, that pretty much tells you kind of what the game plan was. And keep in mind as well, going 12 personnel against the Bucs, that's despite having all of the following receivers healthy: Amon-Ra St. Brown, Josh Reynolds, Khalif Raymond, Jameson Williams, and Marvin Jones Jr. were all healthy out there on the field at times, all available. Nonetheless, Ben Johnson chose to use Sam Laporta, Brock Wright together 24 times to keep the Bucs base defense on the field. That chess match was interesting, if you ask me, especially Laporta versus Levante David. I'll link that up here in a moment for you guys if you want to check that video out. Did a matchup-based video on those two guys. St. Brown finished with 12 catches and a touchdown. Looking forward to the Ravens matchup. This is part of a larger preview that I hope to get finished in the next 24 hours. This is one of the ways I think Ben Johnson attacks defense. We're going to talk about 3 formations: twin slot, trips closed, and ace. And maybe I'll show you one more that's bunch at the end, and how he kind of weaves all those things together throughout the course of a game. All right, so 5th possession against the Bucs. This is twin slots. You got 2 tight ends on the field. One of them is in the slot. One of them is into the twins. What's he doing? He's forcing you as a defense to declare your coverage. If the nickel defender goes out, or a linebacker goes out over the top of Brock Wright, who's the number 1 defender down to the bottom side, he kind of knows the coverage he's getting and knows whether it's man or knows whether it's zone. This case, it's zone, and you've got Reynolds on this little boundary side in route, and then Laporta is just occupying the boundary side outside linebacker who dropped out into the flats. Quick completion to Josh Reynolds from Jared Goff. Of course, we know those guys have a great connection. Why is Goff able to be so quick on some of his reads? I think Ben Johnson's doing a fantastic job of forcing defenses to declare in terms of coverage. He knows what he's going to get out of certain looks, and then he can just tell Goff, all right, well, when we line up in this formation, and he can probably tell him in his headset pre-snap, when we line up in this formation, if you see this, do this. And he's been trained all week to do so. It's why Goff looks so prepared. It all falls on Jared Goff's shoulders to go out there and execute it. He deserves all the credit. But Ben Johnson, I think, is a big part of it, manipulating defenses, putting people in conflict, forcing them to kind of declare their hand. And if you're not convinced yet about how specific Ben Johnson is and what he wants to do, this is first play of the game. First possession, first play, and you can see that you've got both outside linebackers on the field for the Bucs, and they have rolled down the strong safety to the trips. He's controlling your reaction. He's limiting you to a certain number of reactions because you're forced to choose base defense or nickel, and then from there, Goff can determine things based on probably outside linebacker alignment, where the strong safety is pre-snap. This case, we know it's a screen to St. Brown for 11 yards. That was a beautiful play. First play of the game, well set up. Now, against the Ravens, like I said earlier in the lead-in, he may choose to attack our nickel defense. He may choose to go against go 11 personnel and go against our nickel. But the point is, that's a matchup-specific thing. You, as a defensive coordinator, you've got to prepare for everything. And Ben Johnson's one of those guys that you may prepare for this stuff, this 12 personnel trips closed, formation, and then he may not show it to you at all. Like I said, prior to week 6 against the Bucs, he'd only gone 12 personnel 43 times. Well, in our database, my guess is it's probably like 50 or something like that if we had every position. This one is one of the more interesting ones, if you ask me. This is still first possession, and this is going to be Laporta complete down to the bottom side of the screen. What's happening here? He's got the trips out here forcing the Bucs to deal with those 3 guys, one of which is Brock Wright, lined up out wide. They could still play man against Brock Wright, don't get me wrong. Goff knows what he's got. He's got the one-on-one. Laporta versus David, who played an amazing game, if you ask me, on Sunday. Really made things difficult on Laporta, who I think 4 catches on like 10 or 11 targets. End zone angle, same play. You can see these guys communicating pre-snap. Base defense on the field. Both edge rushers are on the move. Goff's got his matchup. Perfect throw to the boundary where we know Ben Johnson likes to attack. Let you see it one more time from the All-22. Earlier in the season, trips closed had been a somewhat different formation. So when I say trips closed, we're still talking 12 personnel. But now that one of the tight ends, or both of the tight ends, are attached to the formation. Brock Wright's the downside in a 3-point stance. Laporta's up here. If you don't know, this is David Montgomery's counter for a touchdown, I think in late third or early fourth quarter against the Chiefs. What was different on the previous iteration of it was Brock Wright's feet were out here. And this was Laporta to the boundary against the catch against Levante David that I just showed you. So on some level, you've got to have memorized, if you want to, defensively, 2 versions of the same formation. You can see the complexity that's involved. He adds motion to it to F counter play. This was a really nice block by Laporta on the inside linebacker for the Chiefs. Big moment for the Lions. I thought they went down here and really kind of asserted themselves against the Chiefs. So it's not like 12 personnel can't be used in the run game. And like I said, I showed you the data, or I talked to you about the data, I should say, earlier, that it was 50-50 run pass prior to week 6. It certainly was not in week 6. Out of those 24 12 personnel iterations against the Bucs, 18 of them were passes and 6 of them were runs. I could offer some conjecture. He wanted to go against the Bucs base defense to throw the football, and he used 12 personnel as the platform to force them to do that, versus going 11 personnel, eliciting the Bucs nickel defense, removing one of those interior D linemen, and then trying to throw the ball against that. Maybe he didn't want to attack that walled castle, so chose to go 12 personnel to go against their base defense to throw. What his choice will be against the Ravens, I don't know. But it's clear to me that this type of formation out of 12 personnel is something that he wants to use to throw screens, because we've seen 3 of them. I showed you the one to St. Brown, first play, first possession of the game against the Bucs. Here's another one against Carolina 2 weeks ago. Cool little play, almost gets Khalif Raymond into the end zone, 10-yard gain out of 12 personnel, trips closed. And again, this version of it is slightly different from the one that was shown against the Bucs, because you have both tight ends attached to the formation. Brock Wright in a 3-point stance, Laporta here where he was against the Chiefs on an F counter touchdown by Montgomery. So as a Ravens or Lions fan watching the game on Sunday, they don't show you personnel groupings. The broadcast should do that. They should, if they wanted to really kind of help people out and accentuate our understanding of the game and our anticipation, I guess, to use a football word. They would show us the personnel groupings. You could look, okay, is the second tight end here, or is he down here in the slot? Because there's a difference. This, to me, would be a more run-heavy version of trips closed. The tight end out here, remember it was Brock Wright against the Bucs, and Laporta being down here will be a more pass-heavy version. So the Ravens defense is tasked with memorizing or trying to memorize as many of these things as possible out of their base defense and their nickel. You can see how the depth of which the understanding has to be for these guys to try to be prepared. Back to the Bucs in week 6, slightly different version. You got a bunch set now, so they're all stand-ups. So both tight ends are stand-up positions, kind of giving away your intentions, but you have to at some point, especially if it's third down. It's a cool completion, tells you how good Jared Goff is playing. Little sidearm whip to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Let me show you one more time from the All-22, and then we'll get to the end zone angle. So he's looking to this side first. Got two potential receivers over here. So he's reading from right to left on this play. Comes back to the middle. And look at this inside linebacker. And when you get the end zone angle, you'll see it even better. He's in the window of where St. Brown is going. So Goff's got to, be patient and then get that guy moved. As he starts to throw, he already knows where that linebacker's going. Sidearm throw, you can see, kind of looked like you were throwing a pie for a moment because he had to get his arm angled down. End zone angle, really cool play, man. You guys let me know what you think of some of these previews. I would like to show some Ravens defensive film during this time, but I just do not have the time Thursday morning to get that done. Reading from right to left. Here's the inside linebacker, Devin White, that's going to be in that window. Comes back to it. I mean, look at where St. Brown is, where he's going, and what's there. Goff gave a slight look with his head to pull him to that side a little bit. Let's see it one more time. We'll go slow-mo. It gives a slight look to that side to pull David back there to that side. Get him out of that window. Right here. As soon as Goff turns his head, hopefully the player's working good on your end. My source screen, it's moving nice and slow and smooth. Hopefully it's not choppy for you guys. Tells you how great Jared Goff is playing right now. This is not anything near the version of Jared Goff that a lot of people took a lot of time to criticize and run down. This guy's playing at an elite level. I think Ben Johnson is a part of it, is a big part of it. The personnel they have is a part of it. The offensive line also. It's going to be a huge task for any defense to stop all of the multifaceted attack that the Lions throw out there. Of course, if their running backs aren't healthy, that's a big loss for them. I mean, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs is a real two-headed monster, and I like how they were using him earlier in the year. Certainly, we'd like to see Jahmyr Gibbs get some more carries at times, but both of those guys have been effective. Craig Reynolds is an underrated football player, but doesn't offer the same level of explosiveness and ability to break tackles as those two guys. Ben Johnson's task will be more challenging, if he doesn't have either one of those guys available. Nonetheless, the Ravens defense is up against it. When you're dealing with a guy like this who will come into a game plan and show such an imbalance in what he had put on film. Again, the 12 personnel data, for us anyway, was 22 runs, 20 pass, 1 penalty. So I don't know what that was. So 22 out of 42 actual plays was run plays, but it was, we were talking roughly 53%. And then to come into the game against the Bucs, he shows the same personnel group 12, 24 times, 6 runs and 18 passes. If he sees something, he's going to attack it. And the interesting thing is, I do think he'll attack it early, but I think there's also times where a guy like Ben Johnson will wait to reveal his hand until he wants to, meaning he won't go 12 personnel the first 6 plays of the game and go all pass plays and kind of exhaust that advantage, that perceived advantage on his part. Mike Macdonald is a brilliant defensive coordinator who also has answers of his own. I don't know about you, but I can't wait to see the matchup between the teams, but also between Ben Johnson and Mike Macdonald. I've spent a lot of time the last year plus looking at film of both of these teams, and to see them matched up against each other is a real treat for me, and I hope the game lives up to it for you. Appreciate you guys' time. Let me know what you think of this abbreviated preview of the Lions-Ravens matchup in Week 7.